So let's talk about something really important, and honestly, pretty tough. What happens when the one place you're supposed to be safe, the one place you go to heal, actually ends up hurting you? We're talking about betrayal in the therapy room.
Just imagine hearing that. Yeah, honey, that was never gonna work. Who would say that? Maybe a really cynical friend? A total stranger trying to be cruel? Okay, but what if those words came from your therapist? And what if they said it right after you told them about a suicide attempt? I mean, the sense of betrayal in that one moment, it's just staggering. And that's exactly what we're gonna get into.
All right, so let's back up a little. Before we can even really talk about the betrayal, we have to appreciate what it takes to even get into that therapy room in the first place. Because for so many people, that journey starts with a huge act of courage. I mean, really think about it. You might have been struggling in silence for years, maybe even denying there was a problem at all. And then to finally admit to yourself, okay, I need help, and then actually say that out loud to another person, that's a massive step. It's this moment of total vulnerability, It's fragile and it's full of hope. And that hope is built on something that professionals call the therapeutic alliance. It's basically the core of all successful therapy. It's this mutual understanding, sometimes said, sometimes not, that this space is safe, that it's built on trust. It is literally the foundation, the bedrock of the entire healing process. So what happens when someone takes a sledgehammer to that foundation? Well, that's where things get really tough. This is where we see this huge, jarring gap between what therapy is supposed to be and the painful reality that some people actually experience. And the difference couldn't be more stark, right? On one hand, you have the promise of therapy. You're walking in expecting a safe space, empathy, support, validation. But then on the other hand, you get the complete opposite. Ridicule, dismissal, mockery. It's like a total 180. It's everything therapy is not supposed to be. Okay, so to really grasp how damaging this is, we have to go beyond the concepts. We need to hear from the people who actually went through it. Let's step inside the room and hear their stories. All right, so for this first story, just put yourself in this person's shoes. You've gathered all the courage you have to talk about the most traumatic thing that's happened to you, a suicide attempt. You're finally sharing it because you believe, you trust that you're in a safe place. And then you get that response, the one we started with. Yeah, honey, that was never going to work. And the source material says it wasn't just the words. The therapist actually laughed. Can you imagine? The one moment that demanded the absolute most empathy was met with humiliation. Just like that, the safe space is gone. Poof. Okay, so the next story we have is from someone's very first session. You know how critical that first meeting is, right? It's when you're supposed to start building that trust. This person is basically testing the waters, opening up about some really intense struggles, even suicidal thoughts. And again, laughter. The therapist just burst out laughing. It's so unprofessional, so dismissive. The person who shared this said it made them feel completely foolish for ever trusting them in the first place. That sanctuary just became a place of total ridicule. And this last story, wow. This is about someone in an incredibly fragile state. They had just been released from a mental hospital after a suicide attempt. So this first appointment with a new therapist, it's an absolutely critical part of their recovery. And you're not going to believe it, but same reaction. The therapist laughed, and then went on to downplay the whole thing, calling the suicide attempt not serious. When you get a response like that, how can you not start to question everything? Like, what's even the point of asking for help if this is what you get? These stories they're tough to hear. And the damage doesn't just stop when that person walks out of the office. The impact lasts. So let's talk about the long-term fallout from this kind of betrayal. So what does happen when that safe space gets broken? It really is the main question here. When the place you go to for help ends up causing more harm, what are the real-world consequences for your mind and your emotions? Well, the damage is huge, and it's way bigger than just one bad hour. For starters, it cranks up your self-doubt. You start thinking, wait, was my pain even real? Am I just overreacting? And of course, it makes you incredibly hesitant to ever try therapy again. Your trust in any professional just gets shattered. And maybe the worst part? It reinforces this terrible, damaging idea that being vulnerable will always lead to you getting hurt, which is the exact opposite of what therapy is supposed to show you. It just leaves you feeling invalidated and totally isolated. Which really just leaves us with one last, really hard question. If the one place you're supposed to go for help ends up causing more harm, where do you go then? It just shows what a massive challenge this is for people who've been betrayed.
When the very system that's supposed to be your safety net is the one that fails you, the road to getting better becomes so much harder, so much more uncertain. And that's something we really need to be talking about.